Welcome back, viewers. You're watching WION World is One. This is World DNA, the show that gets you ahead of the rest. I'm Shivan Chalna.
And I'm Jyotsna Kumar. On the show today, U.S. President Donald Trump has now issued a warning to NATO, saying allies will have a very bad future if they do not help open up the Strait of Hormuz. Now, Trump has also reiterated countries that benefit from the shipping route should help secure it. We'll get you all the details on that.
Also on the show, on the ground, U.S. and Israeli forces continue to bombard Iran, while Iranian foreign minister has dismissed Trump's claim that Iran wants a truce. Attacks continue in the Gulf region with a drone-related incident near Dubai airport and an attack on Baghdad's international airport. And in the midst of all of this, U.S. Energy Secretary says the war may take a few more weeks, as we're already in the third week of this war. We'll get you the latest on the West Asia crisis right now. Let's start with the headlines first.
Dubai aviation authorities announced temporary suspension of flight operations at Dubai International Airport as a precautionary measure after a drone attack sparks fire in the area.
Donald Trump warns NATO allies that they will face a very bad future if they fail to assist the US in opening up the Strait of Hormuz. The warning comes amid reports that US is preparing to announce an international coalition on escorting ships through the vital shipping lane.
President Trump says he may delay his Beijing summit with Chinese counterpart Xi Jinping as he presses Beijing to help unblock the crucial Strait of Hormuz, while Trump's trip to China is scheduled for later this month.
French President Emmanuel Macron dials Iranian President Masoud Pezeshkian, urges Tehran to put an immediate end to the attacks against countries in the region. Macron also says the Hormuz Strait must be opened as soon as possible.
Saudi Crown Prince and United Arab Emirates President hold a phone call. Both leaders say continued Iranian attacks on Gulf countries represent a dangerous escalation.
Reports say that American oil executives have warned the Trump administration that the energy crisis caused by the US-Israeli war on Iran is likely to get worse. The CEOs of major oil firms such as ExxonMobil, Chevron and ConocoPhillips have reportedly all voiced concerns.
Well, U.S. President Donald Trump has issued a new warning to NATO and China regarding security in the Strait of Hormuz.
Well, this warning, it comes as global oil markets remain volatile due to supply disruptions triggered by the ongoing US-Israeli conflict with Iran. In a brief interview with the Financial Times, Trump said that the alliance, NATO, that is, it faces a very bad future if US allies fail to open the strait. He also highlighted that the US, and as the US has aided Ukraine in the war with Russia, he expects Europe to help on the Strait of Hormuz.
The UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer has spoken to U.S. President, and according to Downing Street, they have discussed the ongoing situation and the importance of reopening the strait to end the disruption to global shipping. But a report in The Telegraph suggests Starmer is refusing to send warships to help reopen the Strait of Hormuz. UK's Energy Secretary Ed Miliband has said that the government was intensively looking at what could be done to open the strait, but refused to offer a firm commitment.
France and Germany have also signaled reluctance to answer the US president's demand. But Trump isn't giving up. Not only has he warned NATO now, but also pressed on China to help in opening the Strait of Hormuz, saying that his upcoming summit in Beijing, which was scheduled for later this month with his Chinese counterpart Xi Jinping, could be delayed. He said that he would want to know Beijing's decision before the summit, noting that China, as well as many European countries, rely more than the US on oil flowing from the Gulf.
Now, in the interview with the Financial Times, he said, and I'm just quoting right now, "It's only appropriate that people who are beneficiaries of the strait will help to make sure that nothing bad happens there." Asked about specific help he was looking for, the president said he wanted minesweepers as well as people who are going to knock out some bad actors that are along the Iranian shore.
About a fifth of global oil and liquefied natural gas normally passes through the Strait of Hormuz. That's how critical it is. A narrow passage of water between Iran and Oman.
And well, for more to discuss on this, we are now being joined by Lynn O'Donnell, who is a journalist and an author. He's joining us from Australia. Thank you so much for joining us on the broadcast. Let's begin with this latest warning that Trump has now issued. He was requesting the allies earlier, but now he is warning them to take part in securing the Strait of Hormuz. First of all, your reaction to this warning, and what kind of reaction are you expecting? For some countries have denied this. Australia itself has refused to send warships. How do you see this escalating, and how do you see Trump's warning as of now?
Well, hi, and thanks for having me. Many countries are caught between security alignment with the United States and their economic dependence on the Gulf for their energy resources. Trump's warnings come amid concerns amongst European states. If you're listening to the political programs over the weekend, what the politicians have been saying in the UK, for instance, and also in other European states, is that they don't know what President Trump's end game is. They don't know what his goal here is. None of that's been stated. And as we enter the 16th day of this conflict in the Gulf, what we're seeing is a spike in oil prices, which of course is going to happen amid uncertainty. So, I think that escorting ships through the Strait of Hormuz risks direct military confrontation with Iran, something that neither European nor Asian powers really, they don't want to risk it. There's a great reluctance there. And so we're seeing behind the scenes, as with President Macron of France's call with the Iranian foreign minister overnight, perhaps a two-track strategy amongst the allies, wanting to talk with Tehran to take a lower profile diplomatic approach to Iran, while at the same time paying lip service to President Trump. I mean, we know that President Trump can be venal and vengeful. We've already seen that in the more than 1 year since he's been in his second presidency. People, countries, states, governments that do not go along with his demands have been slapped with very high tariffs that have damaged economies on both sides. Now, everybody is suffering from high and rising energy prices. So I think that this is a very it's a diplomatic balance that European and Asian countries are going to have to traverse.
Yeah, Lynn, till yesterday there was a statement from Trump saying, and we won't delve much about what he's saying because it keeps changing, but this last one, I just want to understand the US stance here. Till yesterday, it was a request to France, UK, even China, South Korea as well, and Japan, to come and provide escort services or security in the Strait of Hormuz. Today, that request has turned into a threat. Does it indicate some kind of desperation coming in from the US side, or an admission that they're unable to handle Iran in this Strait of Hormuz?
I think, to be totally frank with you, I think that the Trump administration was not aware or willing to accept the potential consequences of taking action against Iran. I think that their military action last year, along with Israel, against Iran's nuclear program, for instance, puff them up a little bit about what to expect in the event of a strike against Iran, and a lack of understanding of the very nature of the Iranian regime. As we've discussed before, survival is built into the strategic considerations of the Iranian regime. There is no we can't sugarcoat the nature of this regime, the way it treats its own people, its use of proxies. But it seems to me that the red gaming and the green gaming neither were taken into account by the Americans before they launched into this unilaterally. There is no suggestion that this was a legal war, and it was only after the fact that Trump came out and said, I was confident that the Iranians were about to strike, as if there had been some undercurrent of that, which, he only came out with that after the fact. So I think that what we're seeing is European and Asian countries that are as reliant as everybody else in the world on Gulf oil, really trying to hedge. The demands, the threats, very typical strategy.
Yeah, they're taking things in their own hand, and that essentially is what Jyotsna and I were also discussing in the newsroom earlier. Macron making that call directly to Pezeshkian. I think more and more countries are trying to establish their own direct line of communication with Iran at this point to get their own vessels safely and securely out of the Strait of Hormuz and their own interests in place.
I think you're right. I think that Macron's call to Mr. Pezeshkian is an indication of the anxiety amongst European and no doubt also Asian states about escalation. Where does this go? Rising oil prices directly hits consumers in every country in the world. So Macron is taking direct action to try and calm things down. France and other European states still see, I think that this is what the call indicates, diplomatic channels with Tehran as essential for de-escalation.
And talking of oil, it's not just the world, but also there's calls from the U.S. itself. The CEOs of major oil firms such as ExxonMobil, Chevron, and ConocoPhillips, they're also warning that this energy crisis caused by this war is likely to get worse. Is that anyhow is going to hold back Trump? And is Trump going to consider the fact that, okay, there are problems inside America itself that is happening with these American oil executives warning?
Oh, absolutely. The discussions in the American media now, right out in the open, are about oil hitting $200 a barrel. American consumers are very, very sensitive to oil prices, and so is American politics. Now, as we've discussed earlier, Trump is facing the midterm elections in November, with prices at the pump in America and elsewhere already going up 30%, 40% in some places. This is going to really come back to hit him politically, and I think he knows it. And the warnings from the oil executives really have to hit home, and that's probably the reason that he started threatening his allies to come in on it with him. He doesn't want to be left standing alone. He doesn't want to look like the loser. He never does. But the very fact that the oil executives are coming out and warning him of $200 a barrel oil means that this is very, very serious for him politically.
And when Trump pressures the warning that he's given out, it's not just NATO, but also China. And the fact that Trump also said that they're attacking the Kharg Island, and we talk about that island, China is one of the countries that has stakes there as well. So how do you think China will be reacting to this kind of warning from Trump saying that, okay, I'm going to delay my visit and I'm going to wait for how China reacts and if it helps me secure the Strait of Hormuz?
Does an economy like China pay heed to this kind of a discourse coming in from the US?
Well, China's economy is also vulnerable to what's happening in the Strait of Hormuz. It is Iran's biggest customer for oil. So any strikes on the Kharg Island refining and storage facilities are certainly going to impact China. So far, Iran has made sure that the oil going to China keeps moving. It's targeting other countries' oil and gas infrastructure, and it's sending a message to the United States via its neighbours. The oil is still getting through to China. So I think, China is going to be vulnerable politically, but it has shown that at the last summit that it had with America, when Trump last went to Beijing, for instance, that it is able to push back against Trump's excesses, if you like. Last time they met at the summit last year, Xi Jinping got concessions out of Trump over the tariffs that he had levied against China's exports to the United States. And I think maybe that pressure, the same pressure, can come to bear. It seems to me that Xi Jinping does have some leverage over Trump, and as a major customer of Iranian oil, I think it's going to be in his interest to use that leverage.
And while we're on the topic, Lynn, Kyrgyz Island and Strait of Hormuz, while US threatens to target Kyrgyz Island and the oil facilities there, not just the military targets which they claim to have already taken out, Iran has enforced complete control, at least through threats and their own targets and their own strikes in the Strait of Hormuz. Is it a game of now who blinks first, as one takes hold of Kyrgyz, the other one takes hold of the Strait, both having implications across?
Well, Kyrgyz is really quite vulnerable. It's not far off the coast. It can take huge oil tankers, like 85 million barrels of oil tankers, which are essential for moving the oil out of there in quantity. What Trump has done so far, it seems, is signal to the Iranians that Kyrgyz Island is vulnerable, and that if he wants to, he can attack the oil infrastructure there. But he's also sending a signal to the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps, basically the Iranian military, because their economic lifeblood is all caught up on that island. Kyrgyz, definitely vulnerable, but Iran has already basically signalled that it's not fully closing the strait, but even limited disruptions with mines, drone attacks, harassment of the tankers has spiked the global energy prices. It can do so again, and I think both sides at this point are looking at escalating the potential for escalating asymmetric warfare. That means the economic consequences of escalation could reach far beyond the battlefield, and Kyrgyz Island has to be right in the centre of that.
And that being said, when you look at all these countries who are denying to send these warships, do you think that there is some kind of isolation that U.S. Is bound to suffer, considering the fact that this warning has come out to the NATO members and all the allies, who he has said that if your ships are there, then you're responsible for securing it?
Yeah, I think that that's a really good point. But I also think that what the allies have signalled is their willingness to keep diplomatic channels open. And that will also spill into pressure on the United States. Trump is just one man in an administration of powerful allies and envoys, and a military that is very professional as well as very powerful, and is also connected to other countries. You've got the Five Eyes, you've got the NATO alliance. So there, I think that maybe over coming days we will see pressure come to bear as Trump ratchets up the rhetoric. That's what he's good at. But behind the scenes, diplomatic pressure, I think, is going to be extremely important. As we go forward. Yeah.
Lynn, Chris, right. All right, there's breaking news coming in. Lynn, I'll request you to just stay on with us. I'll come right back to you once we bring these updates to our viewers. And that's breaking news from Australia and Japan. They have ruled out joining a multinational naval force to protect oil tankers traveling through the Strait of Hormuz.
Now, U.S. President Donald Trump had earlier urged allied nations to help form a naval coalition to police the vital shipping lane. He had again warned these allies, but Australia's Infrastructure Minister Catherine King has said that Australia will not send ships to the Strait of Hormuz.
Japan has also said that it is not considering maritime security operations. Japanese Defense Minister Shinjiro Koizumi told Parliament, in the current Iran situation, we are not at the moment considering issuing a maritime security operation. That's the big development we're tracking for you. Australia and Japan, they've both ruled out joining a multinational naval force to protect oil tankers traveling through the Strait of Hormuz. And the US president had initially urged allied nations to help form this naval coalition to police the vital shipping lane.
But of course, Australia's Infrastructure Minister Catherine King has said that Australia will not send ships to the Strait of Hormuz. Lynn, I would like to take your reaction to this. Of course, we have this statement coming from Australia. If you could also analyze for us what kind of importance does the Strait of Hormuz play for Australia at the moment? And of course, Australia saying no to providing any kind of assistance at the Strait of Hormuz.
Well, just because Australia is a long way away on the other side of the world doesn't mean that it's not important. The Australian economy is also oil and gas reliant, just like everybody else. Prices have been spiking here since the war started 2 weeks ago by about 20% at the pump and will go higher. Speculation is also going to be a part of that. That Australia has aligned with Japan and also with the United Kingdom in saying we're not going to get involved militarily here is going to be very popular with the people at home. And when it comes down to it, a government survives at its own ballot box. The message has to be to the domestic consumer and the domestic voter. And I think that this is going to be popular here. It's going to be popular in the UK and popular in Japan. And then we have to wait and see what will happen in Europe, where very serious and concerted diplomatic efforts are going on. Whether or not this means that Trump is going to be isolated, we still have to wait and see. But this is very much his war. He didn't tell anyone he was going there. And so at the moment, everybody wants to be wary and covering their own backs before they'll cover his.
Interestingly, that's exactly what Jyotsna and I were also discussing, that nobody was informed. It was a unilateral decision. Even Congress didn't know. And now partners across, while Australia and Japan have now said no, Lynn, do you feel NATO will have that liberty to say no when Trump says that you're going to have a bad future if you don't assist this?
Yeah, NATO is nothing without the United States. I think we all know that. So let's wait and see. But, the diplomatic efforts of the NATO allies will go on in coming days, and they, something may happen. I mean, the Indian diplomatic effort with Iran has already paid off with 2 oil tankers coming through the Strait for the Indian market. So, something there is working. Let's see.
Lynn, always a pleasure speaking with you. Thanks so much for joining us here on the broadcast. There will be more to discuss. Look forward to discussing with you again. All right, there was Lynn O'Donnell joining us from Australia. As of now, we are going to be continuously tracking all the developments coming in from West Asia. This is World DNA. Slipping to a very short break. Come right back.
From the bustling trading floors of Wall Street to the vibrant exchanges of Asian stock markets, WION breaks it down for you to make sense of what's happening, as we reveal the key factors behind events, strategic battles, and the game-changing business decisions that shape the world. We bring you all of this and more on World Business Watch. Global policymakers, global military leaders, global strategists, 7 pulsating themes. One global stage.
Campaigns, elections, alliances, controversies, and power play. Beyond the noise and rhetoric, no election, no ballot issue too small.
Francis Prime Minister Sebastian Newton.
Stories that analyze global and domestic politics. More than just headlines. A dedicated show with varied perspectives, expert take, citizens' voices, detailed ground reports, and in-depth coverage from political corridors of the world. This is Race to Power. Only on WION. World is One.
Get the latest updates.
Destroy their
Breaking
missiles
news.
and raise their...
Credible, clear, continuous. Experts across aisles. Diverse voices, one platform. WION World is One. Where darkness hides behind every corner. Where the truth is stranger than fiction. A show that dives deep into the stories which shock and mystify. Unsolved murders. Psychopaths who defy explanation. International war crimes. And millions swindled in financial fraud. The victims, the accused, and the sinister plot. Crime is your front row seat to darkness.
It's about the support that those terrorist groups.
LTT has been wiped out.
Afghanistan would expect India.
This Hafiz Saeed issue.
Deepest disappointment and concern.
दुनिया पहले दो कैंप में दो खेमे में
Müslüman düşmanlığı yapmaya başladı.
To political activists.
So long as my country,
From the conversations that mattered to capturing the pulse for the future.
In-depth coverage of global issues broken down into facts, figures, and simple words. Backed with analysis from field experts who truly matter, because we believe in decoding the real picture for you. So you get a much wider and deeper understanding of stories from around the world, a 360-degree analysis. An award-winning documentary series, week after week creating the maximum impact. Watch WION Wide Angle at these times on WION World is One.
WION, India's global voice. The channel that brings you the biggest stories from across the world through India's lens. Now available in more than 190 countries worldwide. Because we believe that the world is one. Watch us in Africa, Europe, USA and Canada, South America, Asia Pacific, Middle East and North African regions. Also available on these digital platforms across the world. WION. World is One.
In West Asia, every move shifts the world's balance. Wars, ceasefires, alliances, power never stands still. From Tehran to Tel Aviv, from Damascus to Doha, the West Asia Post cuts through the chaos to reveal the region that shapes the world. Because what happens in West Asia never stays in West Asia. This is the West Asia Post, the region's story, the world's impact.
Back viewers, you're watching World DNA with Jyotsna. I'm Shivan. Lots more to discuss. Let's start with the headlines.
President Donald Trump warns NATO allies face a very bad future if they fail to assist in opening of the Strait of Hormuz. The warning comes amid reports that U.S. is preparing to announce an international coalition on escorting ships through the vital shipping lane.
Donald Trump says he may delay his Beijing summit with Chinese counterpart Xi Jinping as he presses China to help unblock the crucial Strait of Hormuz. Trump's trip to China is scheduled for later this month.
Australia and Japan say they have no plans to send warships to protect oil tankers traveling through the Strait of Hormuz. U.S. President Donald Trump has urged allied nations to help form a naval coalition to police the vital shipping lane.
Dubai aviation authorities announced temporary suspension of flight operations at Dubai International Airport as a precautionary measure after a drone attack sparks fire in the area.
Saudi Crown Prince and United Arab Emirates President hold a phone call. Both leaders say continued Iranian attacks on Gulf countries represent a dangerous escalation.
At least 10 people killed in Odisha after a fire that broke out at an ICU ward of a trauma care center in Cuttack.
Asian markets were in a cautious mood on Monday as hostilities in the Gulf kept crude prices elevated. The surge in oil is complicating an inflation outlook that should keep most central banks on pause at key policy meetings this week.
And Iran has reportedly sought a serious review of its relations with Gulf states in light of the war with US and Israel.
But Iran's ambassador to Saudi Arabia, Ali Rezi Enayati, has told Reuters that they are neighbors and cannot do without each other. When asked if he was concerned that the relations would be harmed by the war, he also blamed the exclusionary approach and excessive reliance on external powers for the volatility witnessed in the region the past 5 decades and called for deeper ties between the Gulf Cooperation Council's 6 members along with Iraq and Iran.
Gulf Arab states have faced more than 2,000 missiles and drones so far. And these are attacks since the outbreak of the war on the 28th of February, with targets including US diplomatic missions and military bases, but also critical Gulf oil infrastructure, ports, airports, desalination plants, hotels, and residential and office buildings.
In Saudi Arabia, attacks have been concentrated on the eastern region where most of the kingdom's oil is produced. However, the Iranian envoy has denied that Iran was responsible for the strikes,
including the one on Ras Tanura refinery on the east coast of Saudi Arabia and dozens of attempted drone attacks on the Sheba oil field in the desert near the UAE border. He also said that Tehran was only attacking US and Israeli targets and interests.
Well, he in fact said that he personally was in ongoing contact with the Saudi officials and highlighted cooperation regarding the departure of Iranians who were in the kingdom for religious pilgrimage and the provision of medical assistance to others.
In a message to the Gulf states, he said that the war has been imposed on Iran and the region. To resolve the conflict, he said that US and Israel must halt their attacks and regional countries should not be involved, while international guarantees must be secured to prevent their recurrence.
Now, a statement follows remarks by Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi, who only yesterday had said that his country was ready to meet with regional states and form a joint committee to investigate the nature of the attacked targets.
In an exclusive with Xinhua news agency, he even suggested that Tehran has intelligence data that suggests that US and Israel are secretly attacking Gulf states.
And while thousands of demonstrators in the UK took to the streets of London to condemn the Israel-US war on Iran and the Gaza conflict.
And authorities say that at least 12 people have been arrested in connection with this incident. Londoners, they gathered for a static rally in support of Palestinians on the southern side of River Thames after the government banned the Al-Quds Day March, an annual rally held in support of pro-Palestinians. Protesters could be seen sloganeering and holding placards denouncing Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu and US President Trump.
Avoid the bloody police.
I am here to denounce the attacks on Iran, first of all, and I want Israel and America to be out of the Middle East from all of the countries, and I want illegal and unprovoked war on Iran to end, and I want Israel and America to leave the Middle East alone and leave the Palestine alone and free the people of Palestine.
This is the problem of Iran, sanctions, guys, and sanction has been imposed by Trump. Trump is not the solution to our problems, he is the problem, and he is there to destroy our infrastructures and kill and destroy our armies.
Meanwhile, on the northern side of River Thames, anti-Iranian protesters gathered in support of US and Israel. Demonstrators waved the old Iranian flag and held placards in support of the exiled son of Iran's last Shah, Reza Pahlavi.
Now, however, London police intervened and arrested 12 protesters after chants of death to the Israeli Defense Forces were made by popular rap punk duo Bobby Villain at the rally.
London Metropolitan Police have launched a probe on the frontman of the rap punk duo Bob Villain. Reports suggest that the rap artist made similar chants during a concert in North London in May last year.
Now, pro-Iranian supporters across the world took part in rallies to mark the Al-Quds Day. Demonstrators in Toronto rallied with figures representing dead children to protest against the war in Iran.
Meanwhile, in the US, protesters gathered in the capital, Washington, D.C. to denounce US and Israeli strikes on Iran, calling it evil. Similarly, Shia Muslims in Nigeria marked the Al-Quds Day by holding placards in support of Iran's new leader, Ayatollah Mujtaba Khamenei.
Well, similar demonstrations have also been held in Iraq and Yemen.
The Indian government has issued a comprehensive update on preparedness across key sectors in view of the evolving situation in West Asia.
Well, measures are being taken to ensure stable fuel supplies, maritime safety, and support for Indian nationals in the region. The government said that India is self-sufficient in petrol and diesel production and no imports are required to meet domestic demand. Oil marketing companies have also confirmed that no fuel dryouts have been reported at retail outlets.
Authorities are also closely monitoring LPG availability across the country. An amendment to the LPG control order issued on the 14th of March now requires consumers who have piped natural gas connections to surrender their domestic LPG connections. The step is aimed at optimizing LPG availability for households that depend solely on cylinders. The government is also promoting digital booking of LPG cylinders. Online bookings have already increased from 84% to around 87%.
Well, for certain sectors like hospitality and restaurants, the government has activated alternate fuel arrangements. An additional allocation of 48,000 kiloliters of kerosene has also been provided to states and union territories.
The government also updated on Indian vessels and seafarers operating in the region. It said that the Indian flagged vessel Jag Ladki has sailed for India after loading crude oil at Fujairah oil terminal that recently came under attack. Two Indian flagged LPG carriers, Shivalik and Nanda Devi, are also en route to India with LPG cargo.
Well, New Delhi is unlikely to join any multinational naval coalition to secure the Strait of Hormuz.
Instead, New Delhi is choosing to rely on its own naval power to protect Indian merchant vessels amid the escalating war in West Asia. Government sources say that heavy lifting will be done by the Indian Navy itself. Officials point to Operation Sankalp, under which India has been conducting independent maritime security operations in the Western Indian Ocean since 2019. The mission includes armed escorts, surveillance and rapid response to threats such as piracy, drones and missiles in the Gulf of Oman, Persian Gulf and Gulf of Aden.
Well, at present, 22 Indian flagged vessels with more than 600 sailors are operating in the Persian Gulf region. Two Indian LPG carriers, Shivalik and Nanda Devi, carrying over 92,000 metric tons of LPG, have just crossed the Strait of Hormuz and are expected to dock soon at India's western ports.
Well, this move comes as US President Trump has called on major economies to send naval ships to help secure the strait. The strategic waterway has become a global flashpoint since the war triggered by US and Israeli attacks on Iran.
In retaliation to US-Israeli attacks, Iran has choked Strait of Hormuz by launching counterattacks on commercial shipping vessels trying to pass through the Strait of Hormuz.
The Indian Oil One app has climbed to the top of the App Store charts in India as consumers rush to book cooking gas amid the US-Israeli war on Iran.
Well, the surge comes as energy supply concerns and panic bookings have driven a sharp spike in LPG demand across India. The Indian Oil One app has overtaken ChatGPT to become the #1 free app on both Google Play Store and Apple App Store ranking in India. The app allows users to book LPG cylinders, track deliveries, apply for new connections, and find nearby petrol pumps or LPG distributors. App data from Sensor Tower, a mobile app analytics company, shows more than 4 million downloads in the last 30 days.
The sudden surge in bookings has even caused some online LPG booking systems to crash in states like Punjab, where bookings rose to 30 to 40% above normal levels. The surge in downloads comes as the war in West Asia disrupts global energy supply chains. The blocking of the Strait of Hormuz, one of the world's most critical energy choke points, has triggered concerns about fuel availability. Across several Indian cities, LPG distribution centers have seen long queues as households rush to book cylinders. Restaurants and eateries in some areas have also reduced their menus or temporarily closed as cooking gas supplies tighten and prices rise. Authorities have also reported instances of LPG cylinder hoarding and black marketing. India currently has more than 334 million households with LPG connections, while around 1.5 million homes use pipeline natural gas (PNG).
And amid the escalating tensions in West Asia, New Delhi has begun an operation to evacuate its nationals from the region.
And this is with the first batch of 101 medical students arriving in the country. Now, according to Student Association's estimation, nearly 3,000 Indian medical students are studying in Iran, 2,000 of them from Kashmir alone. Since February 28th, around 2 lakh passengers have returned to India from the region.
Now, the Ministry of External Affairs is closely monitoring the situation in the region. It said that the well-being of Indian nationals remain its highest priority. Indian missions and posts across the region are functioning around the clock, maintaining contact with the Indian community, and are providing assistance wherever it is required. Now, missions are also rendering support to Indian seafarers in the region.
SpiceJet has announced that it will operate 7 flights from Fujairah and 2 from Dubai to bring back stranded Indians. Air India and Air India Express are operating limited services on the Delhi to Dubai route.
And this while Indigo has advised passengers traveling to and from Dubai to check their flight status due to the ongoing restrictions. And the UAE airlines are operating from Abu Dhabi, Dubai, Ras Al Khaimah, Sharjah and Fujairah to various destinations in India. Flights are also operating from Oman, Qatar and Saudi Arabia to India.
For Indian nationals in Bahrain, Kuwait and Iraq, where airspace remains closed, transit through Saudi Arabia is being facilitated. Tensions between Afghanistan and Pakistan are escalating by the hour.
Afghan Defense Ministry has said that its forces carried out a strike on a Pakistani Special Forces facility in the country's South Waziristan district. The retaliatory strike comes after Pakistan airstrikes targeted sites in southern Afghanistan in an overnight attack.
The Afghan Defense Ministry said that the military camp that was targeted in Vana, South Waziristan, belonged to Pakistani Special Forces. The ministry spokesperson confirmed in a post on social media that buildings used by Pakistani commando forces and other important facilities they were hit. The post also claimed that Pakistani soldiers suffered heavy human and material losses in the strikes.
Well, Pakistani forces carried out overnight airstrikes in Kandahar, the Taliban's traditional stronghold and the power base of their supreme leader Hibatullah Akhundzada.
Islamabad said that Kandahar strikes as targeted what it called the terrorist hideouts and military infrastructure, quote unquote, in the region. It added that the strikes were part of its ongoing cross-border operation against militant groups that it accuses of staging attacks on Pakistani territory from Afghan soil.
Now, the latest military confrontation comes amid a rapidly worsening security situation along the Pakistan-Afghanistan border. While both sides have traded accusations and retaliatory attacks in recent days, raising fears that the long-simmering tensions could spiral into a broader conflict.
According to UN figures, the clashes so far have left at least 73 civilians dead, 193 others wounded. Moreover, over 100,000 people have been displaced from their homes due to the cross-border tensions between the two neighboring nations.
Well, the global oil market is facing what energy analysts are calling the largest supply shock in modern history.
Escalating attacks on energy facilities and disruptions to critical shipping routes have triggered fears of a massive supply crunch. More details in this next report.
If supply disruptions persist, analysts estimate 8 to 15 million barrels per day of oil supply could be affected, a shock far larger than many past crises. The big question now is how high oil prices could rise, and more importantly, which economies break first if crude keeps climbing. Oil markets typically react in phases depending on the severity of the disruption. In a moderate disruption scenario, which now seems highly unlikely considering oil is already above $100 per barrel, a sustained price in the range could trigger higher fuel costs and inflation. A prolonged supply shock could push oil into the $120 to $150 per barrel range, where the economic damage begins to accelerate. At $150 per barrel oil, inflation spikes sharply and economic growth starts slowing across most major economies. But in a worst-case scenario, analysts say oil could spike toward $200 per barrel, triggering a global energy crisis. Historically, once oil stays above $130 for sustained periods, recession risks begin rising sharply across the world economy. The economic impact of high oil prices is not evenly distributed. Countries that rely heavily on imported crude are typically the first to feel the shock. India, Japan and South Korea import the majority of their oil needs, making them highly vulnerable to prolonged price spikes. Emerging economies like Pakistan and Bangladesh face even greater risks because high oil prices quickly strain foreign exchange reserves. The United States remains relatively insulated because it is now one of the world's largest oil producers. But if prices move toward $150 or higher, economists warn the shock could ripple across global supply chains, pushing the world economy closer to recession. Business Bureau, WION World is One.
Well, the 98th Academy Awards hosted by Conan O'Brien is finally here.
Let's take a look at all the winners of 2026. Well, Hollywood's biggest night delivered a master class in both high fashion and cinematic history at the Dolby Theatre. From a red carpet that traded traditional bold colors for sculptural couture to record-breaking wins for a Hollywood veteran. The 2026 Oscars proved that the Academy still has plenty of surprises up its sleeve.
Sean Penn won the Oscar for Best Supporting Actor for his portrayal of an absurdly uptight soldier trying to bury his past in one battle after another. And this marks the actor's third Oscar win. He was not present at the award ceremony this year to collect his honor.
If you love your children, you have to make some changes.
One battle after another also won in awards in the Best Pictures category, directing, adapted screenplay and film editing categories. The director of the movie, Paul Thomas Anderson, received the honor. This year, Cassandra Koulakundis made cinematic history by becoming the first ever winner of the Oscar for achievement in casting. She was honored for her work in Anderson's One Battle After Another.
Koulakundis was recognized for assembling a powerhouse ensemble that included stars like Leonardo DiCaprio, Sean Penn, and Chase Infinity.
And in a victory that felt like a cultural win, Netflix's K-pop Demon Hunters took home the Oscar for Best Animated Feature. The film managed to beat Hollywood giants, including Disney's Zootopia 2 and Pixar's Elio. Golden from K-pop Demon Hunter also won the Oscar in original song category. With this win, Golden became the first K-pop inspired anthem to win an Academy Award.
The Oscars delivered a rare moment in the Best Live Action Short category. The singers shared the spotlight with two people exchanging saliva.
Ryan Coogler won the Oscar in the Best Original Screenplay category for Sinners. This year, Sinners also won the Oscar for Best Original Score and Cinematography. It is one of the movies which earned 16 nominations.
And folks, to your left, please, to your left.
And while speaking of Sinners, Michael B. Jordan won his first Oscar for his performance in the movie. The honor was presented by Adrian Brody.
And Michael, to your left. And Michael, to your left. Michael, just to the bottom to say it. Michael, this way.
Jessie Buckley won an Oscar in the Best Actress category for her performance in Hamnet.
And Jessie, down here again, please. Jessie, the front of the dress right here.
And Amy Madigan won Best Supporting Actress for her role in Weapons.
I know there's nothing I can say to make this better. I love those kids. I want an answer.
The Girl Who Cried Pearls won an Oscar for Best Animated Short Film.
That night, everything changed.
Frankenstein won Oscar in Makeup and Hairstyling category and Production Design category.
James Cameron's Avatar won the Oscar in Visual Effects category.
Who are you? We don't run, we fight till the end. You are not Na'vi. You are a ghost wearing blue skin.
Awa's fading.
Joseph Konsinki's Formula One took home the Oscar for Best Sound. Now, the award was presented by the cast of Bridesmaids, who were celebrating their 15th anniversary.
The documentary Mr. Nobody Against Putin secured the Oscar for Best Documentary Feature Film, marking a significant moment for political filmmaking.
Передадим большой привет в камеру. Это кабинет, оплот демократии. Или просто создавать пространство для того, чтобы они могли быть детьми.
And Sentimental Value won the Oscar in the International Feature Films category. The award was presented by Priyanka Chopra Jonas and Javier Bardem. All right, with that, we call a wrap to World DNA for today, but don't go anywhere. News and updates will follow on the other side. You're watching Beyond World is One. Stay tuned.
Where darkness hides behind every corner. Where the truth is stranger than fiction. A show that dives deep into the stories which shock and mystify. Unsolved murders. Psychopaths who defy explanation. International war crimes. And millions swindled in financial fraud. The victims, the accused, and the sinister plot. Crime